Well, hello, and welcome to an episode of the Cannabis Man Podcast. Thanks for clicking on the show. I'm your host, Don Kleppen, and I'm getting over a little bit of a cold this week, listener. I hope that doesn't bother you too much, the quality of the voice here. I've been a little congested the last few days, taking some sick days from work and whatnot, so please forgive any lapse in vocal quality, but I'm going to try and get through this here as best I can. I have an excellent interview for you. It's a guest that I mentioned on last week's episode. It's Yesenia Roman. She created CannaBaddieTalk.com. It's a women empowerment website. She's doing her best to normalize cannabis, especially in the dating scene. She's got a very exciting singles stoner event coming up next week, stoner speed dating, in fact, at the Rise in Mundelein, and you'll hear more about that in that segment. Also, obviously, the news joint wrap and the strain of the week, all of which I will get to after we play the open on this 37th episode of the Cannabis Man Podcast. Let's roll right into the news joint wrap. This is a wrap-up of cannabis-related news stories and events all around Illinois and the Midwest, and it's curated by IllinoisNewsJoint.com. Think of it as the joint you can hit for all your Illinois cannabis news and reviews. And let's start with Illinois' 2022 medical cannabis sales hit a 2-year low, actually. Illinois Department of Public Health reported last week that December's medical cannabis sales totaled $31,405,976.35, and it was the most in cannabis sales, medical cannabis sales, since April of this year, which hit $31,774. However, the overall yearly total sales for medical cannabis in Illinois was $353,601,178, and that was less than the total sales from 2021 and from 2020. IDPH has Illinois medical cannabis sales for 2022 around $353 million, whereas 2021 yearly totals were just under $400 million at $397. 2020 was at $357 million. So obviously 2021 was big, but it's not too far off. This year wasn't, or rather last year, 2022. It wasn't that far off from 2020, the first year that recreational cannabis was made legal in Illinois. There's a more significant breakdown of the totals at IllinoisNewsJoint.com if you want to learn more about that. But on a different note, but related note, Illinois' 2022 adult use cannabis sales surpassed $1.55 billion. IDFPR, the Illinois Department of Financial and Professional Regulation, announced last week as well the totals for adult use cannabis sales in December and the final total sales for the whole year of 2022. December sales totals broke a record for monthly sales by hitting $143,899,826. The record-breaking month pushed Illinois sales total for last year just past that $1.55 billion mark, for a grand total of $1,552,324,820.37. December was also a record-setting month in-state resident total sales as well as items sold in December. There was more than $100 million of in-state resident sales done for Illinois adult use cannabis in December. That's the first time it's surpassed $100 billion inside a month. The state also sold the most cannabis items in 1 month since legalization at $3,446,978. Out-of-state resident sales reached $41,439,616, which finishes only behind July of this year totals, which were $43,503,289. You can see some more of those numbers all at Illinois News Joint. IllinoisNewsJoint.com. And finally, Jason Brown at Illinois News Joint reviewed a very exciting development, I think, here. He reviewed a sample box, which is courtesy of 420pipes.com. Listener, you know that I am an affiliate of 420pipes.com. I love what Nick Thomas is doing there. I think that the Smoke Local initiative that they have is fantastic, and Jason Brown has reviewed their sample boxes. It's a monthly subscription service which is being newly offered by 420pipes.com. It is a sample box which comes every month with a packaged selection of 2 to 3 house choice pieces. As an added bonus, they ship all 420 Pipes orders with free shipping if the customers grab the subscription box. That would be any order you put in from 420pipes.com. If you are a subscriber getting one of these sample boxes, everything you order from 420pipes.com will be, the shipping will be free. And if you use the promo code CannabisMan, you can knock 10% off of all your products, and that includes the sample box. So this is something that I think is very cool. I hate cleaning my glass. I love getting new pieces. I love that because there's nothing quite like smoking out of a new piece. You get all the taste. You get none of that resin that's built up over, past usage. And I just think this is an opportunity for a small amount a month, $10 a month, and you're going to be getting 2 to 3 custom pieces from 420pipes.com arriving at your place every single month. So if you're like me and you hate cleaning your pieces and you love smoking out of new ones, $10 a month for a couple of new pieces every month to me seems like a great deal. And just head to 420pipes.com, look for that monthly subscription service, look for the sample box, and don't forget to enter CannabisMan as your promo code at checkout to knock 10% off that order. And of course, you can always find out more Illinois cannabis news, reviews, and events coming up, all at IllinoisNewsJoint.com. Listener, let's get into my strain of the week. I just picked this up earlier in the week before my illness set in, thank goodness, because it may seem a little counterintuitive to imbibe in cannabis when you're not feeling so well, especially, to smoke when you've got a cough or anything. But, maybe you're, drinking a tonic, maybe you've got a gummy or something like that. But, one of the magical things about cannabis is that it sort of takes you out of whatever unpleasantness the current circumstances may offer, and that includes sickness. So if you're really feeling some symptoms, if you're kind of feeling under the weather, don't smoke if you have a cough. That's just going to make you cough worse. But some gummies, some topicals, if you're feeling body pain. I definitely was feeling some achiness this past week with this sickness, and there are some topicals out there that are great, help me out. Gummies as well, just kind of, you don't have to smoke it, but obviously you still ingest that 10, 20 milligrams or more of cannabis to put you in a more desirable or less unpleasant place. And on that note, what I went out and grabbed before this illness set in was something I've never tried before. This is from the Tales and Travels line. It's made by Revolution Products. So this is some Revo flower here, and the name of it is Bear Dance. It's a sativa, and they have a really nice and colorful package on this thing. I'll take a little picture and I'll share it on the social pages because I just think this Tales and Travels line of products from Revolution, I saw some other products at the Sunnyside I went to. I thought these were fantastic. There's something about the artwork on the front side, bright colors, really puts you in a cool mood. And then they have this little greeting on the back of the package here. Hi there, we're glad you're here. Come with us to Boogie Town, where there's a golden glow around everything you do. The world is your dance floor. Welcome, friend. Thank you, Bear Dance of Tales and Travels from Revolution. I'm happy to be here. And just looking at some of the other information on this package here, the THC average, the total cannabinoid content that they give is 23.44%. They give the THCA at 21.39, and then the THC is 0.78%. This was harvested September 2nd of 22, tested October 28th, and packaged November 9th. And it says used by November 9th of 2023. The mood they give, groovy, social, in tune. That sounds nice, I guess, if you want to be rhythmic. That's a benefit for sure. Terpenes include terpinolene, beta-caryophyllene, osamine, beta-myrcene, and limonene. And obviously, I'm very familiar with the limonene. That is a fruity sort of type of taste, aroma as well, and I'm a big fan of the limonene terpenes. I can't say I'm familiar with osamine or terpinolene. That's one one I haven't seen before either, but I was able to get this bear dance of Tales and Travels from Revolution at the Sunnyside in Wrigleyville for about $40. They were running a bundle deal where if you bought 2 or more flower items or concentrates or vapes, they would knock 20% off. And so I bought this as well as some mini buds. I got those for about $30. So I walked out of there after having spent about $67 in total for a quad of cannabis, and I really do recommend it. I've been enjoying this bear dance. I find that it does put you in kind of a groovy place. Still waiting on the golden glow around everything I do, but maybe that's the sickness that's just, sort of putting the kibosh on that. I'll wait until I'm, fully recovered before I judge this thing. But either way, I have been enjoying this bear dance, and do me a favor, check it out for yourself and let me know what you think. If you click on the question or comments link in the show description notes, I'd love to hear if you've tried bear dance or any one of these Tales and Travels products from Revolution. Tell me what you think of them, but I'm loving this bear dance. It's a good sativa, and let's groove. Cheers. All right. No coughing fit. I like that. Listener, my guest today is a cannabis entrepreneur. Surprise, surprise. I know she has a very exciting website that is, it's a women's wellness website that is seeking to empower women in their cannabis consumption. She's a cannabis content writer, and that website that she created is CannaBaddie Talk. And they do things like put on events focusing on women and women empowerment. And there's an upcoming stoner speed dating event that I'm very excited to find out more about. It's their Puff and Cuff, which a name I adore. And it's January 19th of this new year, 2023, at 6:30 p.m. at the Rise Lounge and Smoke Easy in Mundelein. Listener, please welcome Yesenia Roman. Welcome.
Yes, thank you so much. Yes, thank you so much. Super excited.
Yeah, absolutely. And did I have all that right? You created CannaBaddie Talk. It's
absolutely. Absolutely.
So what made you want to do that? I guess, just tell me about cannabis and the website.
Sure. So I have personally been a cannabis consumer for now, generally over 15 years now of cannabis consumption. And really, I say it's my entire life because cannabis was introduced to me as a child as medicine. And so I have basically grown up my entire life having cannabis in my life. Personally, myself, I have a background in marketing and sales. I used to be in the insurance industry and where I used to do marketing. I was also in sales. And so cannabis was kind of just like one of those things that I did that I couldn't really talk about, especially because I was a professional and especially even more so as a woman. So when cannabis became legal in 2020, I really saw an opportunity to kind of create a space for where I felt was lacking, which was really somebody like myself, because most cannabis marketing and the way that it's geared, and it really leaves a lot to be desired for women and femme identifying cannabis consumers.
Sure.
So that's really what that really was kind of what, was my passion when I started. I originally started my blog as a single girl blog, just talking about my life in Chicago, talking about my cannabis consumption, going to events, trying new products. But really, as it progressed, I really realized that more and more people were relating to me and identifying. So that's really kind of what pushed me forward to say, you know what, people do want to read about this. People do want to read about the connection between, being a woman and even so more so being femme identifying and a cannabis consumer, identifying with what we go through, our life, just everyday health, beauty, makeup, all these things that people don't realize cannabis really encompasses all industries. So really just pulling from those things that somebody like myself would care about in terms of cannabis. And I've just been super grateful for it.
That's awesome. Yeah. And right on, good on you for kind of, seeing that need. And I totally agree. I mean, that to a degree, or at least related to that is kind of how or why I started the podcast is because, when it became legal and stuff, I'm as well about 15 years as a user personally. And, I got into radio and broadcasting and stuff. And even though radio is from the outside, guys wear hoodies and jeans sometimes to work and stuff. But mostly it is still professional. And when you get into the news side of it, people expect collared shirts and you have to present yourself a certain way. And so it was, I felt like there was something lacking from the conversation about cannabis as well. It just seemed like I was, as I kind of say it, like there was a lot of Cheech and Chong jokes cannabis and a lot of the same old stereotypes about lazy stoners and stuff. And they're just it was as if the concept had not evolved past like the 70s. And it was just kind of like, we need to move this thing forward. So I think, what you're doing at CannaBaddie Talk and the events you have going is a really cool idea. So the stoner speed dating, how did you come up with this?
So because like my website is really like a single girl, it was my life experience. And because I was actually single 2 years ago when I started my website, it was literally a lot of people were following me, and I would talk about dating and online dating and, being on apps. And I would actually be very transparent and share my experiences and talking about, oh my God, having these conversations about me being a smoker. When do I have them? Do I date other smokers? Do I stay away from those who don't smoke? There was just so many things. There were so many conversations I was having about dating that I said, well, why don't I just put together an event where I could bring people together that already, consume cannabis. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to have to, explain themselves or have this other conversation. Let's just put it out there and, eliminate that whole awkward conversation and just say, hey, look, I'm a cannabis consumer and that's basically it. Let's talk about the rest of me. Because I feel like a lot of people, especially with dating, they kind of get hung up on that. And I, recently just coming up with all these like conversations, I realized that people don't like having those conversations. They're uncomfortable. They're awkward. People judge you based off your cannabis consumption. They don't understand. They don't know why. And even though we are all aware that it's a medical people use it for medical. Not many people will acknowledge that. They still will refuse to see it as a medicinal thing. They see it as, well, you're just a cannabis consumer.
Right.
So the most important thing, especially with women, is that, we want to have a safe space. There's this kind of idea with singles events and singles nights where it's like this seedy environment because it's like just seedy people like standing around looking for like hookups and just all these horror stories.
I know, like a low budget casino or something like that, someplace you don't want to be. Yeah, it's weird.
People are terrified. When I have these conversations with people, they're like, oh my God, it's going to be all men. Right away people are like, oh, it's going to be all men. And in the reality, this is why this event is women empowered and powered, because we are taking all the precautions to make sure that there aren't any seedy conversations. We do have discussions with the attendees about what they're allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do. We create positive, interactions so that even if you don't meet, your potential spouse, you meet a potential smoke buddy,
right.
A friend. Create a safe space where we can have these conversations and not feel just wrong for doing them.
Yeah. And you brought up a lot of great points there. And I think that's so cool because, I mean, it is nice to kind of immediately get past that superficial conversation. And, I think we as people just in general, when you talk about your behaviors, especially, with cannabis use, like, I mean, imagine having the same kind of hang up about alcohol, Imagine you're meeting up with somebody and you're kind of just like, and they're like, hey, so do you drink? And you're like, yeah. And then there's like judgment, or there's some, why do you drink? It's like that. Mm-hmm. No, that's totally normalized, and cannabis is just not. And it's just it's a goofy thing that I think we're still trying to get past the normalization of it and escape that stigma of like the reefer madness and the propaganda and everything. It still lingers in the consciousness, and I think that's sort of what you're getting at when you talk about trying to meet people online, or those conversations of a first date, and people who don't use it or aren't as familiar, for whatever reason, or, have their own preconceived notions about it. To just get past all of that by getting in the door is really appealing, to know that you have a big thing like that in common. And cannabis really is, I think, once people try it, maybe you'll agree, maybe not, but I kind of feel like it's a pillar of somebody's identity. It's when you experience it and it's, changed your life in some way, if you do think of it as a medicinal thing for yourself or not, just recreational, but once you've experienced it and it has kind of changed your life, it's hard to pretend that's not the case.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And for every person, every usage is personal. So some people use cannabis medicinally and it's their medicine and their healing. Some people use it recreationally. It's a routine, a spiritual attachment. Everybody has their own kind of relationship with the plant. And so I think in general, as long as we're like, hey, we're all in acknowledgement that yes, we're all acknowledging that we use the plant despite the varying ways that we could use it. And because cannabis is such a new industry, we have to be extra aggressive in the way that we discuss these topics, because what we're setting forth now, like the things that we're doing now in this industry are basically are the foundation and cement that will, to be talked about in 20 to 30 years. In 30 years, we won't need a stoner speed dating because people will not even care. Like, it's going to be an open discussion. It's just going to be, like you said, you're just going to have a drink. Some are just going to have a joint.
Let's hope. Let us, fingers are crossed on both hands for that one. I do hope that future comes. And you said something else that kind of made me, just shot me right back to the days of when it was fully illegal and everything. Like going to parties or meeting new people and sort of that dance of trying to figure out whether or not somebody was a smoker, where you kind of meet somebody and you're like, well, this person's kind of cool, but how do I know, what do I figure? How do I figure it out? And I feel like you have code phrases like 420 or, I thought that was always kind of something that in a weird way, I love legal cannabis. I'm so all about it and I don't want to go back. But one thing that I do think of that I might miss from the time before is that when you did meet somebody at a party and you found out they smoked, it was like you leapfrogged all this social buildup or like awkwardness. It was like you were immediately closer because you're like, oh, well, we have that in common. And that's a pretty big thing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're right. And I think pre-legalization, it was kind of like a secret club. Everybody was in the secret club of cannabis, And the funniest thing is that one of the biggest things with legalization is that it has allowed people who at one point were afraid to come forward about their consumption now be able to do it. So it's very interesting because where before we were all part of the secret society of like cannabis consumers, now because it's legal, we realize that like the 80-year-old lady down the street is also part of our community. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So it really it goes both ways. And I think that legalization in terms of just in general is more just the freedom to be able to discuss openly without having this lingering feeling of, well, yeah, I like cannabis, so therefore I'm also a kind of a criminal because I consume it.
Yes, right, exactly. And that's that's an important point to make as well. With that change, the societal change, there's this aspect of the criminalization part and all the people that are still kind of behind bars. And I feel like at some point you really have to address that part of it.
Absolutely.
I understand it's complicated. There if people have other stuff like with gun charges or violence, like it's murky, but like there's got to be some kind of abolishment especially when it becomes federally legal, which again, fingers crossed, but it seems like we're headed in that direction for the next, over the next few years. So we'll see how it goes. But either way, hopefully we see that sometime down the line as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then, so I wanted to ask, you did mention before kind of how you're, with the empowerment, with these stoner speed dating events, you're curating the crowd who's coming in there. You're letting people know ahead of time what's okay, what's not okay, and what the ground rules are for the space. What are some examples of some of those things, the parameters that people can expect, and then maybe how can they get involved if they want to come to one of these events?
Absolutely. So with the speed dating, what I really do is I try to create a safe space. So we have discussions about normal things or what people would expect to happen at this kind of events. We always let the men who participate know you're not allowed to, say sweet, like things that are just not their name. You're not allowed to call people out of their name, like sweetie, cutie.
That's a good rule. I mean? That is a good rule.
Yeah, you're not allowed to do, that type of make sexually suggestive remarks or offers or, solicit any type of sexual, activity. The event is strictly to meet and communicate and consume in a safe space with other singles. So there's no expectation placed on what will happen as an outcome.
Right.
After the event, I collect our Canna Connection cards, which are cards that you will fill in who you liked. And if that person also liked you, then I will contact you privately and discreetly and let you know that you have made a match. And that way you're able to contact this person on your own and in the privacy of your own home.
Wow, like an analog version of the online dating matching, but you're going through and just doing that legwork of matching the people up who have indicated that they like one another. I think that's so cool.
Absolutely, and that allows them to also, because we have a mingling hour, that gives them a chance to mingle amongst themselves and not feel restrained to one person or committed to one person ahead of time. That way you're able to just fill out the form, and then the next day we let you guys know who you connected with. But the most important thing is that you are just getting out there, talking to people, having these conversations, and hopefully, like you said, with time, the more you have the same conversation and the more you share the conversation, the more people will start having the same conversation. So really, it's all about cultivating and normalizing cannabis and talking about it.
Totally. Yeah. And right on. That sounds great. All of that is excellent. And then, so how, if people are interested in this, and I imagine many are, how can they get involved?
So you can visit my website. It's CannaBaddieTalk.com. CannaBaddie talk.com. There's a page right on the top left. It's called Stoner Speed Dating, and it lists our upcoming locations and our upcoming rounds of speed dating. So you can expect the speed dating and in a few different places all throughout 2023, not just here in Illinois. Our next one is here in Illinois in Mundelein at the Rise Consumption Lounge, and that will be, like you mentioned, on January 19th. And we're still taking tickets for that specific round. You can get the tickets right on my website. Once you get the tickets, then a day before, you are just emailed, basically giving you some more information, some key information that you'll need for the actual event. And then once you're there, then you just show up.
That's awesome. That sounds so great. And I haven't yet been to that Rise Lounge, but I'm very excited to go. I know it sounds awesome, and everyone I've talked to just loves it. It's a unique experience, and obviously this Puff and Cuff stoner speed dating event sounds like a unique experience, and it's just going to elevate the whole thing. So,
absolutely.
Yesenia Roman, creator of CannaBaddieTalk.com, as well as the stoner speed dating events. Thank you for coming on. This has been awesome, and I like to end these things just by kind of doing these quick hits questions, kind of talking about, what things you like. Are you game for this?
Okay. Absolutely. Let's go.
All right, here we go. Quick hit number 1, morning bird or night owl? Which are you?
Ooh, I am a night owl.
Night owl. It makes sense. If you're going to be doing stoner speed dating events, you have to be able to linger to the end of the party,
Yeah, absolutely. And apart from that, I like to write when the world sleeps. So.
Oh, that's awesome. I totally get that. There was I'm terrible at citing the appropriate, source of a quote, but like somebody had said something about the magic of the 4 a.m. hour, that it's just poetry, that there's just something about that notion that no one's going to bother you. Really inspiring.
It's beautiful, yeah.
Okay, favorite food or cuisine? Something that's, if you're celebrating, if you've got, you just had a wildly successful Puff and Cuff event, and you want to go celebrate. What's, a restaurant you're going to go to, or just a certain type of food that you definitely need to go get?
So one thing I'm always talking about, and this is hilarious, one thing that I always talk about is I like tacos. I love tacos, and there's a specific taco that I eat and I love, and it's the tripe taco. It's tripas. It's basically tripe, which is like the insides, and it's basically like the guts, and they cut it up and they fry it, and it's delicious, and that's the taco that I love. So I would say
tripe. All right.
Tripe tacos, yeah.
That is, I have to applaud that. That is a very unique response, and I'm not opposed to a tripe taco. I'm A-okay with that. It's so cool that is your go-to,
I love it.
It's unique. It is a unique flavor.
And if you ever do have it, just let them know, hey, I want them crunchy, and get some lime on there and some salsa, and forget about it. It's delicious.
Right on. Yeah, great advice. Do try that if you haven't. Drug of choice substance. I ask this of everybody. Obviously, cannabis is important for both of us. That can be the answer. But are you a coffee drinker? Do you like tea or beer or wine at the end of the day? What do you like?
So I do. I am a daily coffee drinker. I like my daily coffee just like I like my daily blunt.
Yeah.
So it is definitely cannabis and coffee.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right on. That's my combo as well. I love starting the day that way if I can. Some days I get up real early for work doing news and stuff. Like I'll get up at like 3 or some ungodly hour, and it's like, all right, I won't, I'll still smoke a little bit sometimes just to kind of ease into the day still. Yeah. But what I love more than anything is just kind of coasting into the day, and like after a workout, having like a cannabis alongside coffee is just the greatest. So a movie or TV, something that you like to watch, or whether it's a classic or something that you'll leave on anytime you see it on the TV, or something that's a favorite that, will always put you in a good mood anytime you see it on. What do you like to watch?
So my original blog was called Mex in the City Chicago, and it was called Mex in the City Chicago because it was was basically a spinoff of my favorite show, which is Sex and the City.
Okay, and I see your email as well. I was going to ask about that, but I wasn't sure. Mex and the City. That's a good one. Okay, so that was your favorite show.
Absolutely. Well, it was one of my favorite shows, and then apart from that, when I started my blog, I wanted to be the Mexican Carrie Bradshaw in Chicago. So it was Mex in the City, and basically she's a writer and she occasionally smokes cannabis. People don't know this about Carrie Bradshaw, but she also smokes cannabis. So it was just that kind of character. So yeah, it's my favorite show.
Okay, cool. Hey, that's a classic, and a lot of pop culture has come from that show as well. I respect that. Yeah. And then finally, music. What's music you like to groove to? If it's something, if it's at the end of a day and you want to turn it on in your car, either to hype yourself up or kind of calm down from stuff. What's something that gets you in a good groove?
So I am very controversial about music because I always say that music distracts me. Because whenever I listen to music, I just want to dance. So I can't listen to music while I work or actually do productive things. I always have the TV on or like podcasts on or people speaking.
Oh, okay.
So I only listen to music when I'm like gonna dance or want to dance or get into like party mode. So.
I gotcha. Okay. So is it up tempo something then? Just good beats?
Honestly, I like everything, but as long as there's a moving beat, I'm with it.
Cool. That's nice. Yeah. That's cool. And hey, I mean, music does get the party going anytime. So
I know. I am not the type of person who can't get a party started.
Yeah, I believe that, and I'm sure that'll be on full display at the Puff and Cuff Stoner Speed Dating on January 19th at the Rise Lounge and Smoke Easy. Yesenia Roman, creator of CannaBaddieTalk.com. Thank you so much for jumping on today. This has been a real pleasure to talk with you, and I'm sure the events are going to keep getting bigger and better. And congrats on what you've created here.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I really appreciate the conversation. This has been great.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime. Hope we can talk again in the future too.
Definitely. Thank you.
All right, take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
And there you have it, listener. Remember, you can head to CannaBaddieTalk.com if you want to find out more about what Yesenia's doing or sign up for one of those stoner speed dating events, the upcoming Puff and Cuff, which is next week. It'll be on the 19th, so get your tickets now at CannaBaddieTalk.com, CannaBaddie Talk.com. And just some news items, national news items before I let you go this week, listener. Minnesota lawmakers have introduced cannabis legislation, a bill, and Governor Walz says he'll sign it. This is an article that was released January 5th. It's on the publication benzinga.com, benzinga.com, published by a Joanna Scopel, a staff writer there. Some Minnesota lawmakers say they hope 2023 will be the year recreational cannabis is legalized, as efforts continue despite the fact that the state Senate did not pass a similar measure in 2021. Last Thursday, on the 5th, House Democrats introduced a bill that would allow 21-year-olds to buy, sell, and use cannabis. Would also automatically expunge low-level cannabis convictions, according to CBS Minnesota. Representative Zach Stevenson of Coon Rapids is quoted as saying, "Our bill will create a safe, well-regulated legal marketplace where Minnesotans can grow, buy, and sell cannabis if they choose to do so." Local news reported that the bill will create the Office of Cannabis Management to monitor all things involving cannabis and hemp. Now, I wanted to bring this up. I won't go through the rest of the article. I'll share it. You can kind of read it for yourself, but I wanted to bring this up for two reasons. One, another state is likely going to legalize adult use cannabis in this year, 2023. Very exciting news, that. But also, the measure would expunge low-level cannabis convictions automatically. I love that notion. I know that some states have done that as well, but it's a crucial point. I know I talked about this with Yesenia during our interview, and the notion that here we are and we're encouraging people to buy, sell, consume cannabis in different ways, as we should be. But the fact that we're now doing this is slowly moving it into the legal and acceptable, normalized part of society, which again, great thing. But there are people still sitting behind bars for doing exactly what we're now encouraging people to be doing. The hypocrisy of passing these laws, of changing this, while simultaneously keeping prison cells full of people who have done nothing more than what this is, than buying, selling, consuming cannabis. Again, as I said in the interview, it can be murky. Not everybody with a cannabis conviction has only that. Sometimes there are other crimes involved there. That's not what we're talking about here. Low-level, cannabis-only convictions, these should be expunged. immediately. If a state legalizes, that should be a part of step one. So good on Minnesota for putting that right in there. And I love the idea. And I am curious to see what their limitations will be in terms of any adult being able to grow and sell that cannabis. This is something else we've talked about on the show, the issue of license caps. And I'm wondering how Minnesota is going to go about this. If they're going to kind of open the doors and just say, hey, anybody can do this, and issue thousands of dispensary licenses to anybody who applies, kind of a thing. My concern with it is strictly the preservation of legal cannabis. I want legal cannabis to be a healthy, thriving, profitable industry that, benefits all of us, that incentivizes people to innovate and bring it to legal markets so that all of us can enjoy it at a price that's reasonable for these products for people both who use it medically and recreationally. I think that's crucial, and it's something that we should be endeavoring to complete. But you cannot ignore what's happened in Colorado and Oregon and Oklahoma, and what may very well happen in places like Michigan. If you open the gates and say anybody can grow and sell, then as Matt Ross and others have said on this show, other people who have come from Colorado specifically, and now they're here in Illinois, they have said specifically, look, it's nice when an eighth of cannabis is $10. That's nice as a consumer. But if that eighth is garbage, if the quality on average of the products you're getting is crap because people can't afford to invest in better grow operations, better genetics, just if they can't afford to invest in that because the profit margins are not high enough because they're charging less and less for cannabis items because they got to compete against thousands of people, that ultimately, it might feel good in the short term. When you walk out of a dispensary and you've bought an eighth for $10, I'm sure that feels wonderful. In the short term, that is a short-term gain, and I argue at the expense of long-term prosperity. And that's the one thing I just hope that Minnesota, it's very exciting, the notion that anybody can sell, but as I've said, I do think there has to be a limit on how many people you allow into that, and there have got to be quality standards. If there's a way you can let everybody grow, but if they violate, the standards of quality too many times, they lose their license, whatever. If this Office of Cannabis Management can do that in Minnesota effectively, then great. Then that's perfect. I think if you can keep the profitabilities good and the average quality of these cannabis items great, and then the prices are low enough for consumers to enjoy it, or that they can buy it from anybody nearby, someone down the block who grows good stuff that they want to support, I love that. I think that's great. But I'm skeptical of any governing body's ability to successfully thread that needle. I'm just skeptical, and I hope I'm wrong about that. We'll see. The other thing, and the final thing I'll give to you on this episode, listener, is that it's not just Minnesota that's contemplating legalizing cannabis this year in the United States. Hawaii is also looking to potentially legalize adult use recreational cannabis. Lawmakers in Hawaii have announced cannabis legalization push for this year with a newly seated pro-reform governor. So in 2023, we could see Minnesota and Hawaii both jump on the legal cannabis train for adult use. Hawaii advocates feeling confident about the prospects of advancing cannabis legalization in the new session, with an activist coalition holding a press conference on Wednesday. This would be yesterday, January 11th, alongside state lawmakers to lay out the path forward for reform. The new governor that's just been sworn in, that would be Governor Josh Green, a Democrat. Activists are feeling emboldened. He said in November that he would sign a bill to legalize cannabis for adults and already has ideas about how tax revenue from cannabis sales could be utilized. So I will share that article as well. That is from the Marijuana Moment publication. Not one of my favorites. They do great work, but their commitment and insistence on using the word marijuana, I think, is ill-advised. But either way, I'll still share that article, and you can check it out for yourself. But Minnesota and Hawaii, two states already signaling that they're going to join the party of adult use legal cannabis in their states. And I say, welcome aboard. You are going to love it here. And with that, let's wrap up the episode. Thank you so much again for listening. I hope the voice wasn't too distracting from the content here. And I really appreciate everybody's kind reviews and ratings and sharing the show. Numbers have really been growing, and I definitely appreciate it. I've got some exciting stuff coming this year, having to do with the Patreon, additional content that I'm going to be creating, and some very cool interview ideas and people I've been talking to get some stuff set up. So stay tuned. Got some really great stuff ahead this year. 2023 is going to be an exciting one on the Cannabis Man podcast. Bye-bye. Cannabis Man is an original production of myself, Don Kleppen. Original theme music by Yusu Kim, aka Goodson. Other music by Pat Perez, and logo designed by Vorbroker Media. If you like the show, please rate, review, subscribe, and share whenever you can.